Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to All In with Coach Bill Hart. I want to introduce you to my friend from Arizona, Kenny Klaus. Kenny, how are you today, man?
And I'm incredibly great and honored to be in your presence once again. I'm always learning and challenging myself when we spend time together. So I appreciate the opportunity to spend time with you and hopefully share with your audience. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome, bud. That's a guaranteed. As I just told you, I was sitting around last week and I was thinking, man, who have I not showcased that I would categorize as being all in? And I realized, oh my goodness, Kenny Klaus is so that guy, and the timing is so good because it's such a weird market right now. I wouldn't mind you sort of addressing that. But one of the things that I always brag about with you is the fact that this is a guy that was a former FedEx driver. I'll let you tell the story. I'm sure that I botch it up terribly, but I always tell people, imagine driving around, seeing yard signs go up and down, having relationships with homeowners. Hey, Kenny, how you doing? And then at some point you're thinking, I wonder if and and to go from that to I heard last time we talked about this, a farm area of about 30,000 people that you touch. Is that close?
Yeah, we're about 21, 22,000 in the main farm that we've been doing consistently since 2001.
Amazing. I mean,
Every month.
so in the event that anybody is unfamiliar with a farm area in real estate, right? A farm area in real estate, when I got into the business 30 years ago, was so you choose a subdivision or a neighborhood.
Yep.
300's a good number. And every 5 to 7 years, do you remember this? Every 5 to 7 years, people move. So
Yep.
you just do the math on, okay, cool. So I got 300 homes every 5 to 7 years. People are going to move. So all I have to do is get my name inside their brain when they think of real estate. And that's how I built my business,
Right.
which
Yep.
was great for many years until the Wall Street Journal told us that people are now staying in their home, I think, 13 years. And holy cow, Kenny, like what's happened to the market? Let's just start there. What's going on?
Well, I mean, Phoenix is, always that city that tends to get things first, right? So, like California gets a lot of trends, but we tend to get all the real estate technology and tools tried here.
Yep.
And the reason for that is we've got a lot of large subdivisions, a lot of tract builders, a lot of stucco tile roofs, and we're very expansive. And of course, we get people moving from all over the world,
Sure.
all over the country here. So I think we have a lot of turnover, a lot of good sales, volume wise, and our price point is very affordable. Not only
Yeah.
for you know companies to relocate, businesses, investors, second home people. We have a lot to offer, and with
Yeah.
California being our neighbor, especially right now, the migration has been unbelievable the last year or two.
Massive.
So we're in an area that just continues to grow no matter what's going on. But that gives technology a playground to try out all their new toys. So we're usually first to get all those. And like a lot of agents out there, including myself over the years, have wanted to just keep real estate the way it is. And
Sure.
unfortunately, we've seen that slowly change. Really, after we lost search to Zillow, if you will,
Yep.
we started realizing that we don't have this fence around this business anymore. I mean, the fence is down,
Totally.
and the consumer's in control, or has a lot more control, a lot more access to data and to the houses and everything else. And now you're seeing that fast forward. I mean, it's amazing how quickly we went from kind of traditional real estate to everything's
Oh
available.
my goodness. Well,
And
and Kenny, let me just interject because there's something I didn't say up front. I want to make sure that people hear from me about you. If they don't know you and your story, you and your team are selling about a house a day, and you've done that for how many years?
we're heading into our 12th year with averaging a home sold every single day. Last year was about close to 450. And that's one thing I will say, Bill, that through all the markets, especially here in Arizona, we had short sales foreclosures, we had the investor market, we've had everything in the last 10 years. We have remained consistent through all of that.
So
And I can
cool.
tell you, it's one thing for me that farming has done is it's given me a foundation, and we've been able to build up from there,
Yep.
and been very consistent in that. I mean, we're in a very inconsistent business, and and create a business that has a predictable year over year business. If you continue the activities and you continue to adapt. And I think that probably adapt is probably the word of 2020, 2021, is we've got to adapt and be willing to open our mind and look at what options are out there, because the consumer's seeing them. And if we're blind to that, but I think that the consistency to me is what's important. We get up, put our uniform on, go to work every day, just like I did at FedEx, and you show up, you keep learning and trying to get better at your craft every day, because the fish aren't just jumping in the boat anymore. I mean, there's so much competition for, a new lead, let alone all the work you've done to build a database. And honestly, it's not safe anymore. I don't care how in touch you are. You're in touch with what, 20 to 30 people at the most that probably have that deep relationship. Not saying that people aren't better at it. Some are outliers. I get it. But for the most part, everyone's favorite radio station is still WIFM, right? What's in it for me?
Totally.
So if they can find a better deal, save some money, a lot of times, and we've done it to ourselves. I mean, quite honestly, the barrier of entry into our business is so, we're a subscription business to these associations. And so, the more they get, the more revenue there is. And, we've kind of done it to ourselves, that we've allowed technology to kind of come in because of kind of some of the laziness and lack of skills that a lot of agents have. And there's a lot of agents out there. We've done cross sales, and we're like, holy cow, sometimes, like, we'll just give you the co-broke. Let us take the deal, because you're
absolutely, man.
screwed up.
So to that end, I want people to go to your website, whether they do it now or later, and Klaus Team, Klaus, klausteam.com. And what they're going to see there is you got this cool B-roll with, happy couples with keys and everything playing, right? But then it says, we have more solutions than you think. And to me, that's so enormously telling about what you're describing, because in the real estate world, Zillow, iBuyer, all of these efforts out there can be very intimidating when people are like, well, wait a minute, I wanted to stay inside this box that we were in. I liked it the way it was before, right? Well, you can't put this stuff back in the tube, right? It's just not going to go back in the tube any more than when realtors owned the MLS books, right? Do you remember that? Like, it was paper, and you couldn't find this data online. You had to go to a realtor to be able to get access to the MLS book. So to your point, the fences are down. There's a lot of money behind the tech. This stuff is advancing. And so instead of fighting it, what I love about you is you've actually said, you know what? Bring it on. We're going to figure out a way to help people. And you said to me once, I forget when it was, but you said something about, we just listen to people, to your point, what's in it for me, right? We listen to people and find out what their problem is, what their issue is, what they want to accomplish, and then we figure out how to come alongside them. Isn't that your position?
Yeah, I mean, that's anybody in sales, right? Typically, we like to sell ourselves instead of asking more questions. And the secret is you can ask your way out of any situation, and typically we know the answer. We just don't know the questions, and so we're not actually connecting with them at a level that they feel like they were heard. And what we find today is there's so many ways to sell real estate that it's not just the way we've done it for the last 100 years. And the consumer is very curious about it. I think this is where the opportunity for the agent is as big as it's ever been, because there's more confusion and more noise out there right now than there's ever been. Someone really needs a real estate guide to guide them through, what's best for you, not what's best for me. My commission may be different in one program versus another, but to me, it's all about the relationship. I'm trying to keep that relationship, because that relationship is what they're all after, right? They're trying to pry those relationships away from me, your Zillows, your Open Doors, all these, companies out there, where what they've realized now too, they're starting to hire agents themselves, because they're realizing there is some value to local, knowledge, boots on the ground. And
absolutely.
And I think the big difference with real estate is it's not something someone's doing like taking an Uber or booking a hotel, where you can have a bad experience, but it's a transaction. You buy or sell real estate, it's kind of, most people can count on one hand how many times they've moved in their lifetime, quite honestly. So it's a big deal. So they expect an experience. And when we don't deliver that experience, they're like, well, I always challenge our team. Like, if we get to the closing table and I had to ask the client, hey, Mr. Hart, could you have done this without us? Or could you have only done this with us? It'd be pretty humbling to hear some of those answers. Because I think the challenge for us is, when I was teaching, year and a half ago, traveling more, teaching, I was amazed at how many agents haven't been on Open Door, OfferPad, Zillow's websites,
Yeah.
even seeing what their competition's even doing, because it used to be me and you would compete against each other for a listing appointment.
Sure.
Now it's like us versus robot, right? It's like this
Right.
unknown. We don't even necessarily know who we're competing against. And so we have to be able to separate ourselves. And the way to do that is to bring more solutions than anybody else. And so with these companies that are out there, like your Zillows and your iBuyers, you have a choice. You can either become, they can either become a tool in your toolbox, or you're going to become a tool in their toolbox. And that's really the question is,
Right.
are you going to add enough value and run at this thing? And when you're talking to your database, hey, Bill, have you heard of companies like Open Door, OfferPad, Zillow? Every time they're like, yeah. And a lot of times they go to the kitchen drawer and they grab the offer because they already have it from them.
Right.
You're like, no, they wouldn't do that to me. I'm their agent. They love me. And you find out very quickly that loyalty isn't always as loyal as you think, because they saw your paycheck and they know what you did for them.
Totally.
It's not always as wow as you might think you were to them. And a lot of times, we don't express our value as well as we could. But I think, it's like Amazon now. Like if you went to Amazon and let's just say you were looking for, we'll just say, a new headset for your computer.
Yeah.
What's important to you might be different than what's important to me. You may have PC, I may have Mac, I may be mobile, I may need it today. You may want a better quality. You may want one earpiece, not two. I mean, whatever it is, that's what Amazon now delivers. Well, the consumer's now gotten so used to choice and being empowered that when they go to our site, we want to know, hey, we have a buy then sell program. We have a sell and stay program. We have traditional. We have iBuyer. We have instant offer. We have cash. We have lease purchase. What's best for you? And then how I look at it now is like, I used to feel like if I came over to your house, I sat across the table from you, and I'm trying to really sell you on my product and what I have and how good I'm going to be. And every agent's like, oh, I sold this many homes, and it's a Me Too business. It all sounds the same to the consumer. Now I feel like I sit on the same side of the table as you, and we just look at all your options, say, Bill, which one's best for you and your family? Good. Do you need to be somewhere today? Is it a second home? Is it a rental? Like, how can I help guide you through all these different choices and what's best for you? And people, like, the transparency has been amazing for us to see the loyalty, because they're like, yeah, but you're only making this on this one. Yeah. But what we're hoping is between now and the time we close escrow, that we'll have done such a great job for you that you'll put your name to us and refer two people to us. Can we count on you for that? And then they get competitive. So the point is that there's ways to use these things. And the great thing is that you don't have to be like, if you remember, we had guaranteed sale and guaranteed all those things. Sure. But you either had to have the money or you had such a gimmick that you lost so much credibility in a lot of cases. But the odds were people weren't going to take that. But you had to tell them a number. If they said, I'll take it, you're like, oh no. Now you don't even have to have the money.
So let me just interject, because that I remember seeing that from Hobbs Herder Advertising 30 years ago, probably. Yeah. The guaranteed sale program started there. Top agent would emulate another top agent in another market. And so for people that are unfamiliar with this, it was, we guarantee we'll sell your property in whatever, 60 days or less. These days that would be absurd, but you know what, in a traditional market. But the fine print was usually at 10% below market, or to our personal appraisal, or whatever it was. And so when you remember when I was interviewing top producing realtors all the time, right? That was my Talk Jet series. When I would hear that, I would ask, well, how many times have you done that? And very rarely, to your point, was anybody actually doing it. It was more of I hate to call it a come on, but it was an attention getter. Like, wow, this is different from what everybody else was doing. And when they did do it, I have to imagine, yeah, that person probably wasn't thrilled with the fact that it was like, okay, fair enough, we're going to do it at 10% below market. It's almost like, we buy ugly houses, which, by the way, that's a whole other story I'm sure you know about. All I know is I now see the guy on TV all the time, like, holy cow, what is that ad budget?
Yep.
Right?
Yep. And
anyway,
you'd be amazed what we didn't understand. And keep in mind, I've had, Open Door launched here 6.5, almost 7 years ago now. I ran from that too. I was like, oh, this is a joke. No one's going to do this. And we started losing transactions to it. And so I had a choice to either go understand it or continue to run from it. And we just wanted to understand it. And what I realized is that when I sat down at a consumer's house, my first big one for me was we had just sold the brother's house next door, top of market, quickly. This house was a little bit nicer, had a pool, and one of my agents had met with him a couple times, and then they said we quit hearing back from him. And then he finally got a hold of him because of the brother helped us, and he said, "Oh, you know what? We need to be up in Colorado. We're just going to take." We called Open Door and OfferPad, and we're just going to take one of their offers. So I was like, "Well, can we come over and sit down and look at those with you versus what we offered, and let me just take a look at it," because I was so new to it, I didn't understand what it was either. Once I looked at what the actual net was and the fees, I was like, it just came right out. I'm like, "Do you care if I buy it?" And they're like, "Well, if you can match that, we don't care." So I did like 7 of those in a row, and I went, these are the best, these are the best flips I've ever had, because I mean the guy left TVs and yard stuff, and like he was so it was amazing to me. But what it opened my eyes to is that we never offered people choice before.
Totally.
They had to put their house on the market, they had to show it, they had to go through repairs, they didn't know if they'd close on time or if they'd fall out. What happened is that the 3 C's, the consistency, the control, and the certainty, is a big value to people. And I didn't really realize what they would pay for that. But when you're looking at equity, it's kind of like house money in a sense. Like you didn't go to work and earn your equity and sweat and make it.
Totally.
The house made money. So if they're going to get 80,000 instead of 100,000, you'd be surprised how many people would take that.
Oh, absolutely, man.
But we're so wired that people beat you up over.
That's not 1%. How it works. Doesn't fit in the box. Yeah.
Doesn't fit in the box. And we're so worried about, oh, am I going to be able to get my full commission? And,
exactly.
And they'll beat you up over 1%, but they'll leave 20, 30,000 on the table for control and certainty.
Totally.
For the convenience of not having showings, no one in their house. And when you look at those 3 C's, you're like, wow, I've never presented that before. So we started.
So consistency, control, and convenience.
Yep.
So solid, dude. So what's always amazing to me about you,
say those again. I want to make sure I had those right for you.
Okay. Consistency, control, and convenience.
Certainty. So you have certainty. You have control, of course. Now I'm forgetting my third one. What did I tell you? I've said it so many times now I forget. But really it's that control and that certainty that this house is absolutely sold. Pick your closing date.
You bet.
And the convenience. And so it's convenient because you don't have to have showings of houses, which is their big marketing employee too. The point is, once we started just going and getting those offers on behalf of the client, we'd sit down and present them both. And sometimes they would take 30% of the time or so, they were taking the iBuyer offer. And we're like, well, can I buy it? I mean, I don't.
So Kenny, let me ask you a question, because this is such a common situation these days where somebody says, wow, like you guys use HomeBot, right?
Yep.
So I get this email from 3 different clients, and every time it shows up, I click on it like, what's my value? Because it's always going up right now, right? It's like, wow, really? Here's what goes through our heads though, and you know this. It's like, cool, I could sell at the top of the market. This would be spectacular timing, but then what would I
Where
buy?
do I go?
Right? So my question to you is, I don't know anybody who is more boots on the ground in the middle of this market any more than Kenny Klaus right now. So if a relative, if Uncle Bill called you from California and said, hey, Kenny, I'm thinking about doing this, but then what? Like then what? Are we gonna rent our house back? Are we gonna have to go move into a hotel, put our stuff in storage, like go to Italy for 3 months? What do we do?
Right. And I'll sound like an attorney, right? It depends. And let's talk more about your situation. What are you looking to do? Upsize, downsize? If you need to sell first to buy, well, great. We've got a program, our buy first, then sell. You go buy your new home, you move in. We can give you up to $25,000 in rehab costs to get your home ready to go to market. Now we're selling it vacant. You don't have double payments out of pocket right then.
So good.
And by the way, by the time you move in, if the market stays the pace it is, you're going to appreciate another 2 months. Does that sound like something that work? Or we have a sell and stay program, where you get, percentage of your equity up front. That way, if you need to pay for movers or down payment on your next house, and then when you're ready, then you basically, close on your new house and go move, but
So
you're not
good.
having to. So the point is, we have to really understand all these programs first and all the ins and outs to be able to put them together. So we spend a lot of time on our team training consistently on revisiting these programs.
So good.
Because some of them are very, very strong. They're very legit. They have a Wall Street money and they need to deploy it. And so
For
they're
sure.
very aggressive right now because a lot of them are in their infancy too. So they're trying to find their ways. So
Right.
point is, you can see the difference of two different listing agents going to an appointment. One, we're going to put a sign in the yard. We're going to have an open house this Saturday. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. Another one comes in and goes, we have the traditional option, which I know you guys are all used to. We can gather you a couple instant offers before we even go to market. You guys need to, you're going to sell and buy. Well, let's look at this program, sell and stay, maybe stay and buy an investment property. Like what's best. So,
Nice.
we do quarterly investor workshops. So Steve Chater, who's in our market center, wrote the book Hold. So we teach that not only to our agents, but to our database, because we want to have something of value to tell our database.
So smart.
Hey,
Yep.
have you thought about how to build wealth through real estate? And people are like, oh, I don't have the money. I don't have the damn. Well, have you heard of this? Maybe take out some equity. Maybe it's a self-directed IRA. And they're like, and you start unlocking questions. And that's how you become a professional that guides them through this. No
Love
different
it,
than
dude.
a CPA.
So you have no idea how much you fill my 1 gallon bucket with 10 gallons every time we talk, like every time. And so now I want to ask you from a leadership perspective, because at some point this was Kenny Klaus, the realtor, and it was just Kenny 12 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever. It was just you, dark hair, right? It was just you. So then at some point, if we think back to Gary Keller's first book, right, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, he talked about having whatever it was, he categorized it, an assistant, but then it was like leverage. You remember that? It was like,
leads, listings, leverage.
Yep. Then you get a little leverage, then you get a lot of. So now what I'm curious about is at this stage in your business, the Kenny Klaus messaging that you have right now with me is, dude, it's irrefutable. Like I would list with you today if I was going to sell my house, no doubt, right? But what I'm wondering is when you're bringing new people on the team who haven't had your experience, obviously you have to mold them a little bit. You've got to script them. You've got to help them to understand how to ask the right questions and then have the same arrows that they're pulling out of their quiver that you are. I'm just curious what you've learned. How would you encourage somebody right now that says, I'm doing it all. I've got a couple of good people, but if I could scale my business like Kenny has, man, that would be a game changer. What have you learned about hiring, training, scaling?
Obviously I've, done it wrong a lot of my career here, quite honestly. You don't know. I started off as a FedEx guy, turned agent, and, you never planned on being in a position where you'd have 20 plus people in your organization and do the kind of business that we've done. So I failed forward. And, for me, personal growth is really started in 2005 for me. I didn't know what I didn't know. I just willed my way to success. I just outworked everyone. But
Yep.
you hit a ceiling of achievement. And once I realized I hit that, I didn't know where to go from there. So, obviously onboarding, training, all of those things, as John Maxwell says, you can't take someone somewhere you haven't been. And so to me, it's like, I've got to get in the trenches with them and learn all these programs, go to lunch with these people, really understand these programs and vet them and say, guys, I think we're going to need this tool. And then we bring it into our in-house, and we have our director of sales, Ty Lusk, who then really works with the agents to make sure that they're armed with these tools. And if they buy in and they're willing to not personalize things before they've mastered the fundamentals, success is on the other side. It's just totally. Too many come in looking for leads or looking for, this instant, it's just going to happen. It's still that ugly 4-letter word. It's work. And unfortunately, we lose a lot of people when we say that, but it's a grind, and it's a lot of hours, and it's
it is a grind.
Yep. It really is a grind, but like the name of your body, if you're going to do this, I got to go all in. Like I'm either going to do it or I'm going to put my toe in the water.
Totally.
So I have to look at it from a consumer's perspective. And I can tell you right now, the amount of real estate billboards, ads on the radio, TV, social media ads. I don't have those budgets. No matter how successful I've been, I don't have billion-dollar budget to
Yep.
market. So
Sure.
what I have to do is figure out how do I add more value for me as a leader, to my teammates, and then how do I add more value to my data bank? Because those are the people that I need to keep out of circulation, meaning I don't need them to go click on those links and start getting information. I need them to go, you know what, I saw this today. I'm curious about it. Let me reach out to Kenny and get some more
So good.
information, because I don't have to give out my cell number, my phone number, my email address, which
Totally.
is, really like these instant offers. That's what I try to tell people is, yeah, you could go on your own, but you're not represented. Just like going to a
Totally.
builder, you're not represented when you go to a builder. And who are they working for, you or the builder? And people
For
are like,
sure.
oh, I guess you have a good point there.
Never thought about it. Yeah.
This is the same thing. So if you don't, and here's the thing, as soon as you give them your email address and your phone number, they now have your data. And that's what everyone's after, is data. Because if they don't end up buying it, believe me, they have a whole slew of investors downstream
100%.
they will shop that to try to still get a referral fee or something. So it's very important that you're talking to your database more than you've ever done. And I
Yeah.
know people are like, oh, too many emails. If it's value, it's not going to be
100%.
discarded.
100%.
And it's no different than your CPA when tax laws changed 2 years ago or so, like the big ones, or a couple years ago now. Gosh, time flies by. The question was, do I have to go on the internet and find those, or does he send me a video?
Absolutely.
Hey, man, holy cows! You probably heard all this stuff. Whatever. Hey, if you have questions how it affects you or this, just give me a call. Let's talk about it.
So good, dude. So the thing that I hear from you again and again and again is, and I love this about you. So my philosophy, my professional philosophy has always been, I need to deliver more value than cost. So I have clients that I charge $1,000 to $2,000 an hour or two. That's a lot of money. I've got to figure out a way that in their mind, they're like, I am getting more return on investment on this than I am on the expense, right? So that what I know about you is every time you face some new, what others would call it, a block or an obstacle or whatever, you decide, whatever, I got to turn it inside out. I have to learn it. I have to figure out what that is. Maybe that's something that will integrate. Maybe that's something that I can offer something else around. And then the other thing is it's always about work with you. But the other thing I know is you work hard, but you also play hard. Like if I had to put you on the spot and say, roughly how many weeks do you think you take off a year? Like I have no idea. You could tell me 1, you could tell me 15. How much time do you think you and your bride and your family are taking off per year?
I don't know.
Pre or post COVID. Forget COVID.
I don't know if I want to admit that publicly at this point, but I mean, I've tried to build a life that, my mom's going through Alzheimer's, dementia right now, and you realize, someone who's, so I get a little emotional, but someone who's lived their whole life and done everything right, and now can't do anything, and is in a community, and you realize that we have 4 kids, 5 grandkids. We want to go live life. And I believe it's not a spectator sport. You got to get in and play the game. And, one thing, spending as much time I've been, over the years, I've been blessed to with Gary Keller, you go, how does he accomplish what he accomplishes? Because, we have a level playing field, right? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. It's how productive are you within that time? So
totally.
For me, it's like, we're very, our communication with me and my wife is very strong as far as, hey, this next 4 days is going to be grind at work, and then we're leaving to go here. And there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. So, to answer your question, I can tell you at 39, I set a goal to be self-insured and retire at age 50. Nice. That is ironically 31 days from today is my 50th. So the great news is I'll have choice. I won't be retiring in this sense, but is going to what Gary would call the 7th level, where you go from I to we to they. Totally. I did it to we do it to they do it, is really building that. And so, we have second homes up in the mountains. We have one down on the beach, a couple down on the beach down in Mexico, because it's a 4-hour drive.
Nice.
And, we do. We're leaving in June for 10 days. We just got back from 6 days. Because you work hard, play hard, but the only way you can do that is to earn the right, and that is absolutely just relentless focus, doing things the right way. And we've never been gimmicky. And so we've always built this foundation in the community We have our, our 501c3 charity that we do a lot in the community with. So I
Nice.
feel like we're more well-rounded than a lot out there. We're not just transactional thinking commission. I believe you do the right thing, you do it consistently and long enough, commissions become, a byproduct of that. You don't have to focus
100%.
on it. Where I had to adapt was being a business owner personally and not out at every appointment, because I love that. I love sitting at
Sure.
the table. I still love that part of the business. I just don't love everything after that, right? I mean, I don't mind
Exactly.
the conversion, but who doesn't, right? I mean, if you can get there. So you have to succeed through others. And once I learned that, we have other business ventures I'm involved in, and it's all about who you're around. But for me, it goes back to that personal growth is, what are you reading? What are you listening to? If we're driving somewhere, like our cabin's a little over 2 hours. Okay, so the first hour we put in the good stuff. It's a good podcast.
Nice.
I bought 3 books for this trip that we just came back from, and one was a bucket list book, so we started
Yep.
filling that out together. One was a question for your spouse every day, and then one was like another two other books were like just questions, things that stuff you wouldn't even think to ask, but just to,
Love it.
because we do our date night every Tuesday night at 7:30. Every Tuesday, and so it's like you have to make that time, and now it's like, okay, let's challenge each other with this, and what's on your list, and everything becomes very purposeful because you only have so many hours and days left, and we all have
Totally, man.
things that come up. So
Well, Kenny, I am always amazed at what you're doing. I know that you've inspired people. I love what I just heard. I love so much of what I just heard. And I know that you're prioritizing the stuff that matters. I've got more clients right now that are going through that transition time with their parents, and Alzheimer's is all too prevalent. And I just love that. I love that there are more and more people, children of adults dealing with these things, who are able to be available, present, make tough decisions. But you know what, bud? I mean, what would that have been like 25 years ago? What would that, if you were still working at FedEx, like, you'd do everything you could, but you wouldn't have some of the latitude and some of the options and choices that you have. So I admire that. I love that you have a date night every Tuesday night. I love that you and your bride are filling your heads with important thought leadership when you're in the car together. You are such a cool example, Kenny, of what is possible. And man, if I could introduce you to Mike Rowe right now, right? Like, Mike Rowe, Dirty Jobs. He's all about, like, why would you run towards college when you can run towards the trades or build something entrepreneurial?
yep.
The entrepreneurial journey that you have been on is life changing. And I hope that somebody has heard this right now and been encouraged by something they can do with a parent, something they can do with a spouse, something they can do to quit battling and wrestling with forces that are coming at them, and learn to, like, do the martial arts of using that energy, right? Like, that's what you do. And it's always a pleasure, buddy. So if you had one final thought, whoever's in the audience right now, it could be a realtor, it could be a mortgage lender, it could be somebody in a completely different business. You had one final thought as we sit here staring at June, not too far away, halfway through 2021. What would that thing be? What would be your one final thought for somebody to encourage them?
One thing you said earlier, and I thought about it, and then we got on a different subject, but was, Brian Buffini years ago, we were going through that tough market back, 8, 9, 10. He had a thing on one of his things was, a setback is a setup for a comeback. And I can't tell you how many times I've used that since, because, we all have setbacks in our lives. I mean, here's the thing is, I can sit here and tell you all this stuff we just talked about, and it just looks like every day is a great day, and you're rolling around in Benjamins and all this stuff. The reality of it is it sucks. I mean, a lot of days suck. And with his program, one of my liked was, you have to win the day to win the week to win the year to win the month. You only got to win 4 days. Meaning that I like the idea that there's going to be failure. We make it look like it's so perfect. We get on stage and here's how many homes we sold. It's a shit show behind. I mean, it's a mess behind us sometimes. But you keep moving forward. And some days it's just a little step, some days it's a lot. But a setback is a setup for a comeback, because it gives you the opportunity to come back stronger. And
100%.
What I look at right now is the word focus. I know when that was asked of Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, they both said that same thing was focus. And I think the problem in today's world is our kids and everything we're dealing with, the social media side, which is just such fake stuff for the most part.
Sure.
My advice would just be focus on what you can control. If you can
Nice.
focus on what you can control, did you eat a little bit better this morning? Did you exercise? Did you put some good stuff? Did you read? Did you did you say
So
please
good.
and thank? Did you say please and thank you? Did you hold the door? Did you did you work on your business? Did you call 3, 4, 5 past clients? Did you write a couple handwritten notes? Until you worry about what the outside world is throwing at you, what
Yep.
have you done to be offensive in the first place? And I'm telling you, good things just happen because of good
Totally.
things. And what
Totally.
happens is you start to attract that into your world. And too many people are focused on whether it was the election or whether it's Corona or whether it's there's more
Right.
people making more money and creating more opportunity now than ever, which proves that it's out there. But it's easy to get caught up in the poor me syndrome. And
Totally.
do you want to be a victim or a victor? It's really up to you to decide,
Amen, brother.
because I believe the opportunity's there.
Well, so well said. And as somebody once said, commit to the process and the results will take care of themselves. And Jim Rohn famously said years ago, it's all about time and consistency, right? If it's just whether it's a workout, prospecting, building your business, building a marriage, whatever that is, it's all about time and consistency. Well, Kenny Klaus, it is always a pleasure to hang out with you, dude. I know you've got a
Can I
lot
share
of things
one
that you
more
could
thing
have
with
been
you?
doing right now. Yeah, man.
So one other thing, because we're talking a lot about work, we talked a little bit about family. The
Yeah.
one thing that really changed for me in 2005 was, and again, I'll say Buffini, but it was really a pivot point in my career. It was actually called a turning point, ironically. But he kind of had 5 gears up there, and one was spiritual, one was family, one was business, one was your finances. And he started showing like if one gear is kinked up, the other 4 don't work either. So the whole thing gets out of whack. And I can remember him, like saying, are you the guy like on your cell phone, at your kid's game, walking up and down the sideline? And I'm like, yep, that was me. Totally,
Wow.
totally me. And I
Wow.
went, I've got to start putting some stuff in these other buckets. We need to sit down. We got a financial planner. We got to sit down. We got to get, a good CPA. We have to understand our business, our numbers together. What are our goals for the future? What is my spiritual goal? Whatever that is to you. What is my physical goal, from eating to working out to whatever it is? And you start realizing if I put a little bit in all those every day, I become more well-rounded. But so many agents just go all in on work and they think they're going to outwork everything.
Totally.
And then you're unhappy and you wear that. So having that more of a, in the one thing Gary wrote, there is no such thing as like, I want a balanced life, right? Like unfortunately, that doesn't exist in my opinion. I agree with him. It's a counterbalance. It's, hey, I'm going to be working over here so that we can go do this.
Exactly.
We're going to spend time on this, and I may miss a deal here or there, but I've got to go do this because I come back better. And if I'm not happy, it's going to be that way at home and at work, and I'm no good to anybody. So I think that those 5 circles, if you will, and putting a little in each bucket, even if it's not every day, at least weekly, to spend some time there, you feel better as a person, and that comes out in you. And I think it's just the truth, but I don't want to paint a picture that's all roses out there. It's a ton of work.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. But the other thing I love that you have called out so many thought leaders that have had an impact on you. John Maxwell, Gary Keller, Brian Buffini. I know there's so many more, but dude, well done, well played. Super proud of you. It is always great to hang out with you. I'm going to have to cut it loose here because I can actually see my battery's going to die, which is not good. So good hanging with you, buddy. Thanks for making the time. Best of success to you moving forward. If I can ever be of value to you, you know where to find me.
Always. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, buddy.